Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. With the holiday season just around the corner, we're all familiar with the big guy in the red suit, right? Santa Claus. The jolly, white-bearded man who delivers presents to good children on Christmas Eve. But have you ever stopped to wonder where this magical story began? Is he just a character from a fairy tale, or is there a real person behind the legend? Well, get cozy with a cup of hot cocoa because today, we're going to unwrap the true story of Santa Claus, a tale that's far more fascinating than you might imagine. Our journey starts not at the North Pole, but in a place called Myra, which is in modern-day Turkey, way back in the 3rd century. This is where a real man named Nicholas lived. Nicholas was born into a wealthy Christian family, but sadly, his parents passed away when he was still young, leaving him with a large inheritance. Now Nicholas was a deeply devout and kind-hearted person. Instead of using his wealth for himself, he was moved by the teachings of Jesus to help the poor and the needy. He decided to dedicate his life and his fortune to serving others. Nicholas eventually became the Bishop of Myra, and he was known far and wide for his incredible generosity and his love for children. He performed many miracles and acts of kindness, always trying to do so in secret. He didn't want any praise or recognition for his good deeds. One of the most famous stories about him involves a poor man who had 3 daughters. This man was so poor that he couldn't afford a dowry for any of them. In those times, this meant they would likely be unable to marry and could face a very difficult life. Nicholas heard about the family's plight. Knowing the father was too proud to accept charity directly, he devised a plan. One night, he secretly went to their house and tossed a bag of gold through an open window. The gold landed inside, providing enough money for the eldest daughter's dowry. He repeated this act for the 2nd daughter. By the time the 3rd daughter's turn came, the father was determined to find out who his mysterious benefactor was. He stayed up all night, waiting. When Nicholas came to the house a 3rd time, some versions of the story say he found the window closed. So, he climbed up on the roof and dropped the final bag of gold down the chimney. The bag supposedly landed in a stocking that was hanging by the fireplace to dry. Does that sound familiar? A secret gift giver coming at night, using a chimney and filling stockings. The seeds of our modern Santa Claus story were planted right there, with this single act of kindness from St. Nicholas. Over the centuries, the stories of his generosity and his miracles spread throughout Europe. He became the patron saint of children, sailors, and many others. His feast day, December 6th, became a day for gift-giving in many countries. Children would leave out their shoes or stockings the night before, hoping that St. Nicholas would visit and fill them with coins, fruits, and small toys. This tradition was especially popular in the Netherlands, where he was known as Sinterklaas. Now let's fast forward a bit. How did this Turkish bishop in a robe transform into the sleigh-riding, reindeer-herding Santa we know today? Well, that's where America comes into the picture. When Dutch immigrants settled in the New World, they brought their Sinterklaas traditions with them. Over time, the name Sinterklaas was anglicized and gradually morphed into Santa Claus. But the image was still very different. He was often depicted as a tall, slender bishop, sometimes even a bit stern. The big transformation began in the 19th century, thanks to a few key creative minds. In 1823, a poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas was published anonymously. You probably know it by its first line, "'Twas the night before Christmas." This poem, later attributed to Clement Clarke Moore, was a game-changer. It described St. Nicholas not as a thin bishop, but as a jolly old elf with a little round belly that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of jelly. It gave him a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, even naming them Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Dunder and Blixen, later changed to Donner and Blitzen. This poem single-handedly shaped the modern American image of Santa, but the visual was still missing. That's where a political cartoonist named Thomas Nast comes in. Starting in the 1860s, Nast drew a series of illustrations for Harper's Weekly magazine. Inspired by Moore's poem, he drew Santa Claus as a large, cheerful, bearded man in a red suit, living at the North Pole with a workshop full of elves making toys. He was the one who established that Santa has a list of naughty and nice children. For nearly 30 years, Nast's drawings defined the look of Santa Claus for millions of Americans. So we have the name from the Dutch, the personality from a poem, and the look from a cartoonist. The final piece of the puzzle, cementing Santa in global popular culture, came from a very familiar brand, Coca-Cola. In the 1930s, Coca-Cola wanted to boost their winter sales. They commissioned an artist named Haddon Sundblom to create a wholesome, friendly Santa for their holiday advertisements. Sundblom's paintings depicted Santa as an even warmer, more human, and grandfatherly figure, rosy-cheeked, twinkling-eyed, and always enjoying a bottle of Coke. These ads were everywhere on billboards and in magazines for decades. They standardized the image of the red and white suited Santa around the world, making him the universally recognized icon he is today. And we can't forget Rudolph. The most famous reindeer of all wasn't part of the original legend. He was created in 1939 by Robert L. May, a copywriter for the Montgomery Ward department store. The store wanted a character for a free Christmas coloring book to give to children. May wrote the story of a misfit reindeer with a glowing red nose who saves Christmas. The story was a massive hit, and a decade later, his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, turned it into the famous song we all know and love. So, when you look at the story of Santa Claus, you see it's not just one single tale. It's a beautiful tapestry woven together over nearly 2,000 years, from threads of history, faith, poetry, art, and commerce. It starts with the very real generosity of a 3rd-century bishop, St. Nicholas of Myra. His legacy of secret gift-giving evolved through European folklore, was reimagined by American writers and artists, and was then polished into a global icon by modern marketing. What is truly magical about Santa Claus is how he represents the best parts of the holiday season: generosity, kindness, hope, and the pure joy of giving without expecting anything in return. That spirit began with a real person who believed in helping others, and it continues today every time we share a gift with someone we love. So this Christmas, when you see a picture of Santa, remember the long and incredible journey he's been on from a Turkish bishop to a North Pole legend. The spirit of St. Nicholas is still very much alive. Thanks so much for watching and learning about the history of Santa with me today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories behind our favorite traditions. What's your favorite part of the Santa story? Let me know in the comments below. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next video.